Welcome back to Sports Innovation Lab's Sports Zone, a CES partner program presented by Octagon this year. We're really excited for this panel. I am personally betting business opportunities and how various stakeholders are getting in on the game. Everyone's talking about sports betting. They always have, but now more than ever, we're seeing the conversation hit, particularly with all the lost revenues in the sports industry. Not only is sports betting a form of engagement we've all been looking at, but now we know it's a real revenue driver. So I want to dive in. We've got an excellent group of panelists. First, we know that Yahoo Sports has been expanding their partnerships with BetMGM and the fantasy app. I'm incredibly excited to have Ishwara Glassman Shurian, head of sports partnerships and business development at Yahoo. You and I know each other. We work together on our leadership board. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk more about Verizon 5G and our league partnerships and our partnership with MGM and the Fluid Fan and how it all comes together.
Love it. Great expertise. Draftkings is also with us today. Everyone saw the news. You went public in 2020, despite all the cancellations and postponements. The company was able to post year over year 20 to 30% growth. We're joined by Mike Hermelin, this SVP of Business Development at Draftkings. Mike, thanks for coming on and sharing a little bit of insights in your world.
Thanks for having us. Next year, I hope to be in person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love Vegas, but this time of year, this CES is normally the largest conference in the world. We're so excited to do it virtually and to meet. So, Mike, thanks for being here. And then finally, we have a representative from theScore, the first media company to also launch a sports book, who owns and operates digital sports media, sports betting products, which deliver sports scores, data news, sportsbook offerings. Really excited to have Aubrey Levery, the VP of Marketing and Content for theScore, with us today. Aubrey, welcome to the Sports Zone.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking forward to talking about the intersection of media and betting and the evolution of fan consumption, all that good stuff.
All right, lots to cover in a short period of time. At Sports Innovation Lab, as you know, we've studied fan behaviors. We know those are core to the industry. One of the behaviors we get asked over and over about is sports betting. It enables fans to do something, to lean in, to participate. And it's been a hot topic. Forbes, the statistic we talk about a lot, fans are 19 times more likely to watch a sporting event if they place a wager on that event. So everyone's trying to figure this out. Ishwara, let's kick it off with you. How is sports betting helping to garner the attention of Fluid fans? What's your perspective on that? And maybe more importantly, right now with COVID, recouping revenue lost during 2020. What's your take? Kick us off.
Sure. So, for us, it really started in the foundation that Yahoo comes from, which is one of serving fans. And for us, it started in core sports. We have live NFL games, we have NBA League Pass games, we have millions of fantasy users, and we also have a DFS platform. And for us, it was how do we serve these consumers in as many different ways as we can? And to your point on the Fluid Fan, I think what you're going to start to see, and we started last year, we partnered with the NBA on BetCast, is to see media that targets consumers based on what they want. You're going to see telecasts, and you've already seen quite a few of them that are betting focused or fantasy focused or just for the core fans. People get what they want, which I think is really what the future of what you're talking about with Fluid fans and gaming.
Yeah, well, personalization. Wow, what a crazy idea that we want our media and the engagement to be personalized. So yeah, that's definitely a topic we'll dive further into. Aubrey, at theScore, you're a mobile sports media leader, reaching a wide and engaged daily audience. We know that. How have you thought about combining media and betting across your platforms? And more importantly, how do you view that trend moving forward? So, first to the market doing that. Give us a little bit of insight on the thought there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that notion of the intersection between betting and media it's the whole it's the foundational principle under which, why we got into the sportsbook business. Our belief, as I think a lot of people, is that betting is not an isolated transaction. It is a behavior like many sports behaviors, whether it's fantasy or going to a bar with friends or going to a game, it's a component of an overall fan experience. And from our perspective, insofar that betting is increasingly a mobile and in-game experience, and viewing it through the lens of offering sports fans a bet and not treating a bettor as an isolated individual and an isolated transaction. For us, two plus years ago now, when PASPA repealed, we got obviously very excited because we saw the opportunity of being able to leverage our highly engaged mobile sports media audience. Right, to your point, Angela, we're one of the largest mobile sports media platforms in North America. Our app is over 4 million users, second largest mobile sports app. And that idea to be able to find those seamless integrated touch points in our media product to surface integrations, betting messaging, betting marketing, betting options to users, and really trying to build a differentiated media and betting integrated experience basically bringing the bet closer to the user, bringing the bet to the media property as opposed to having to force it outward. And why we get so excited is because by having both of those under our single banner, in one ecosystem, you can do so much to service the sports fan with interesting, creative betting integrations and opportunities.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and combining the two. Again, that's why I'm excited for this panel. A lot of different approaches to this new market. Everyone knows sports betting has been around for a while in Europe, but certainly we'll dive into the opportunity here in America. Mike, the American Gaming Association reported the American sportsbooks recorded their highest monthly handle and second highest monthly revenue total this past August, over 2.1 billion. And Draftkings had the highest betting handle of online platforms in 5 states across the country. Curious your opinion, if you believe that this surge in sports betting was due to the fact that we had to jam pack lots of sports, and therefore when sports went dark, now we're just betting more because they happen to all be at the same time. Or is there some other reason that you really saw this surge and increased use with your handle?
I mean, it's hard to say specifically, but I think the thing that's the most interesting is the shuffling of the games in 2020 and currently presents quite good amount of logistical challenges. But the pent up demand for sports, not only in America, but across the world, was abundantly clear, not only to the 3 of us in this industry, but everyone. I think the thing that's the most impressive about 2020 or looking back is really impressed with the leagues. I mean, NBA set the bar very high. If you look at the NFL, the fact that they played every game is somewhat crazy. PGA Tour being the first one to dive in and do it, and drive sports back in a safe way. And we've been busy. I mean, legalized sports betting in America is definitely being embraced by many, as Aubrey dove into earlier.
Yeah, everyone, Andrew Como, I'm sure everyone saw the news recently. New York is hopefully getting into the game. And congratulations for your the surge you guys saw at DraftKings. Aubrey, what about you? You mentioned before 4 million active monthly users. I'd love your answer to the same question. What's your thought on this surge?
I mean, look, to Mike's point, there was a huge amount of pent up demand coming into the restart of the season. I think we benefited from it the same as everybody else. I think our September, we were up 500% year over year. So it was a really exciting, but really kind of crazy time, obviously unprecedented to have that confluence of sporting events happening simultaneously. And obviously still today, the schedule's messed up. I think what's interesting though, is you're still seeing increased betting engagement, betting interest, even while, some of the more traditional consumption, like linear broadcast, started to fall off a bit into the fall, right? Ratings for some of the sporting events into the playoffs started to drop down. And I think, that's as much to do with changing fan consumption as anything, right? The fact that, I don't know many people who sit there and watch a full football game all the way through on Sunday afternoon anymore, as opposed to watching Red Zone, right? The number of people Largely probably because they're playing fantasy on one
They're
of the other
fluid
two channel
fans. They're doing
platforms.
lots of things.
Right.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
people, their patterns have changed dramatically, whether it's full out cord cutting or just multi-platform following. I mean, look, our entire media business is predicated on people following scores and news, right, in real time. And our engagement in game is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's exciting is that presents a ton of opportunity to both lean into it as a media operator and try to service fans in interesting, unique ways where they're asking for it and how they're asking for it, right? Like for us, it's about servicing them one way on our app versus with an entirely different type of content offering on our social, and even branching into new areas like esports.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of those audiences demand different type of content addressing and communication. And then subsequently, how you then try to integrate betting conversion, betting messaging, betting content is the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not necessarily about one kind of suited up risk from a casino floor talking head betting show that's going to service all platforms, right? Like the fan is more demanding, more platform specific. And I think if you can be a nimbly operating digital player and listen and lean into it, there's a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, our foundational research is around the fluid fan, which is open to change, empowered to choose, and constantly evolving. That you think you know them one day, they change, they want more of an experience. So certainly, what you all described is new ways to engage these fans that are more fickle and more demanding at the end of the day. Ishwar, let's dive into 5G connectivity, because a lot of what we've been talking about is the digital experience. When we're able to get back to venues, I believe that one of the big innovations throughout this past year was 5G and equipping stadiums and allowing you to have that infrastructure now to build betting experiences on top of. We didn't see the urgency, honestly, pre-pandemic, but you've been doing a ton in terms of your partnerships with the NFL and with 5G in general. Can you talk us about this capability and the opportunities that 5G really presents for the sports betting and fantasy areas within sports?
Sure. I mean, for those of us who really miss going to live sporting events, and I'm sure that's all of us on the phone, one of the challenges of going to live sporting events historically has been that it's really hard to get internet service at all in these venues. So you've seen Verizon, simply just wire a ton of stadiums, especially in the NFL and NBA, and increasingly we just announced an NHL deal a couple of months ago as well. And I think that will improve the in-venue experience, both from a gaming and a non-gaming perspective. You'll see us do some things with puck and player tracking and the NHL. We just launched for this season with the NFL a multi-cam experience. Given that fans weren't in stadiums as much, we made it available at home too, so you could see the play from many different angles. It's sort of interesting, regardless of COVID, we were actually going to co-watching anyways in the fall. So, I was able to watch Chargers games with my dad from 3,000 miles away. And it just makes it fun, and it makes it social, whether you're at home or in person. But I mean, to the core of your point, I think for us with 5G, what we're trying to really figure out is how do you use 5G to make real-time betting and in-game betting faster and more efficient for everyone? And I think we all know, based on what we've seen in Europe and based on what we've seen in the US more recently, that it's fun to bet in-game. It's fun to bet on what's going to happen in the next play. And a lot of people are already doing that. A lot of operators are already doing that. But how can you make it faster? Part of that comes down to what Verizon fundamentally does well is how can you collect the data in a more automated way and faster so that you could have these bets be done constantly and quicker.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to being live in person, and I'm excited because, again, the basic infrastructure, the 5G, we're moving in that direction, and what we can do on top of that with your support and others will be, a better experience for the fan in venue. Let's talk about, okay, we're not going to be there for a while. Hopefully it's soon. But we know the industry is working towards that in-person experience. In the meantime, broadcasters have been trying to come up with innovative solutions to win over these fans that are certainly open to choose. And a lot of them are choosing Netflix or choosing other forms of entertainment. Aubrey, what kinds of opportunities are there for broadcasters, digital distributors, others to lean into sports betting and incorporate more betting statistics and lines into again, where the fans are today, which is at home, either digital or on linear?
Yeah, look, I think there's a ton of opportunity. I'll speak to it, I mean, largely from our perspective, which isn't tied to the game broadcast, but really the content that supports a live experience around the game, whether that's following data, real-time news and stats. That's kind of, you know, to Shwar's point, like understanding and being able to deliver the right market at the right time when that play is happening in real time. There's a ton of work that has to go into that, right? Not just marrying odds and data with connectivity, but user intent, and like I'm being able to service that user with the right bet at the right time. And we spend probably as much of our time on that, if anything, where it's, you know, we integrate live odds into our box scores so that the odds are updating in real time, with betting markets updating in real time for users as the ball is moving down the field, as the batter's coming up to the plate, so that you are always essentially, you know, hopefully just a couple very simple taps and a few seconds away, should you ever want to place that bet or cash out of a bet, it's there for you instantaneously. And we let you go so far as to, you can build an entire bet slip within our media property without ever having to stop following the game. And then only at that last moment of needing to actually place the bet, we take you to our betting property, you place the bet, and we bring you right back. So everything is designed through this lens of don't disrupt your consumption, make betting additive to your consumption, and don't force you to go anywhere. And I think that's what we get so excited about, and why where we really focus by being able to be the operator and the media company combined, is we can go as, it's almost boundless as how deep we can go into understanding where our users want those touch points and how easy we can make their lives in a world in which, you know, it's by nature just challenging for users who have to jump around between linear or digital to a book, right? I think there's clearly this seen value from everyone in the ecosystem that the easier we can make a user's life here, the better that's going to be for the user, and ultimately the better that's going to be for us, and the more handle and opportunity that drives.
Yeah, yeah. I think making consumers' lives easier is the name of the game. And certainly I don't leave the house anymore to buy groceries. I punch 2 buttons and groceries are at my door. The same expectation is in sports. Make it easy. Allow me to spend my money more easily and do things that I like. Mike, how is Draftkings then working to incorporate fantasy and sports betting content into broadcast or OTT? You guys obviously have a tremendous opportunity in front of you. Curious what your thoughts are here.
Yeah, Aubrey hit on a bunch of good nuggets, so I'll expand on it. I think if you look at DraftKings, we've been at the forefront of many media deals and broadcast integrations. Last year, we announced 2 major partnerships with ESPN and Turner. And when you look at those partnerships, the reason why we do them is something like with Turner, what we did with the Match 2 and Match 3. It was really a first of its kind. The goal is simply bring customers closer to the action. So Aubrey, I feel like we're playing off each other, but truly additive and not disruptive. And that's through like line bets. That's through make bets available. Throw in a live look at what the public is betting on, which further enhances engagement. And then I think the other piece that maybe most people don't think about is from a broadcaster perspective. So it's one thing to engage our customers from DraftKings, but it's also an opportunity for a partner to engage their viewers. So when we have an integration or a promotion or a live bet, you can visibly see spikes in viewership and tune in and engagement in the broadcast in those moments. And that's the beauty of these like true long-term partnerships. And I highlight the word partnership because these are far from a typical like media transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you just teed up partnerships. I'd love to hear more about that. How partnerships, innovation are, you know, the concept of that across all 3 of what you're doing, helping your companies grow, gain market share. It's, you know, there's a lot at stake and there's a lot of opportunity, but how you go about thinking about the right partnerships, given the stakes. Ishwar, maybe as head of sports partnerships, in your title, you'd like to kick us off on how you think about that.
Yeah, so Verizon is really built around partnerships. You see it at the Verizon consumer level, for example, with the Disney Plus bundle that was really successful for us and for Disney. And for us on the sports side, we have partnerships now with all 4 major leagues and with MGM. And unfortunately, unlike both Mike and but we are not a betting operator. We're an affiliate. So our entire betting business is built on a partnership with MGM. And so we came into it thinking, how could we differentiate and be unique? We're all thinking about that. There must be 18 licensed operators in New Jersey, plus a truckload of affiliates as well. So we came at it from the perspective of how can we take what we have and be different? I mean, we are one of the only people, for example, that takes bets and also has live games in the US, because most of the US leagues have not enabled that to happen yet. So we have live games, but we also have taken the perspective of being a place where fans can come to do something that's relatively casual and social. We know that serious bettors aren't necessarily coming to Yahoo Sports first to bet. So we want to be a place where we can explain to them. I mean, even for me coming into this, I'd been in sports for a long time, but betting was relatively new to me. Just the lines and the odds and explaining that to people and how does it work and how do the bets work and how do these calculators work and what should you bet on? And then more than anything, just trying to make it fun. I mean, fantasy is fun because last week I spent the entire weekend yelling at my TV because I was about to almost beat my boss in fantasy football. I mean, that's what makes it fun. That's what, to Mike's point, that's what builds engagement, is the idea that you're playing against someone or that you have something riding on the game. I like sports anyways, but it was the first year I ever started yelling at the TV like my father used to do. So I think that's what makes it fun. Whatever gets you going, whatever makes you feel like you have something at stake in that game.
So the barometer of success is how much you actually are yelling at the TV. I love that.
Yes.
Aubrey, do you want to dive in? You guys have an interesting approach to partnerships. I mean, you're a media company. You're partnering with yourselves in some ways, but how do you think about that outside of just the score?
Yeah, I mean, well, the reality is that in and of itself is where the vast majority of our mind share goes. There's I think, had we not chosen to operate and had we chosen to be an affiliate, it would, there would be all the same calculations and contemplations that would happen just as a media operator, right? I think for us, that as you think about Tishwara's point, this is a very competitive space, and you have everybody, like the biggest of the big, from the Draftkings all the way down to a bunch of books in each state, more options than users would ever potentially want or look to bet on. So I think you have to have a differentiated carve out. And so for us, we look at obviously a bunch of external opportunities, but our opportunity is really, within our own house. And it's what can we do to treat ourselves as our own best partner that allows us to go deeper maybe than other competitors and other platforms where they don't have the luxury of having everybody potentially maybe swimming as cohesively in the same direction, or they're just different orgs, right? Different orgs have different priorities. God knows it's every engineering and product roadmap is longer than the day is by a mile. So if you have different organizations focused on that, it's you have to work through that. With us, because it's one entity, we can do things that we view to be industry leading and cutting edge, like building entire betting sections, like the bet section, as I mentioned, building entire bet slips within our ecosystem, and that's just step one. So we look at external opportunities, but largely almost all of our effort is focused on every user of the score who has an interest in betting, which there's a lot of them, betting on the score bet, and treating them as the customer to service first and foremost. And if we can do that right, we will have a differentiated ecosystem that anybody new that we bring into, we can really service them in a way that's different and unique. And look, to all of our points on this call, attempting to make betting easier, simpler, more fun for the user, and ultimately driving greater engagement around the game. So I know.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
No. There's a lot.
I had a sexy, $50 million team partnership rolling out, but that's just, for us, that's not our playbook.
Well, the name of this, panel is about, there's a lot of different ways to go about this sector. So it's interesting to get everyone's perspective on the call. Mike, let's start to wrap on 2021, because we're now in a new year. a lot of expectations. We're not just seeing from, DraftKings, the record breaking handle, but this industry is going to continue to grow. Certainly we talked earlier about the revenue that states now need. And so there's definitely a bigger openness to figuring out this opportunity here in the US. So I'm curious, as you start to look at 2021, and the sports betting industry is forming relationships with teams and leagues. What are some of the ways you see 2021 playing out, particularly around the activations of those partnerships that you talked about before, in order to connect to the fan? The fluid fan, as we mentioned, is fickle, dynamic, wants that personalized experience. They're there for the taking in some ways, and they want more. How are you, Mike, and DraftKings approaching 2021?
Sure. I mean, we have a very good handle on the American sports fan, or the global sports fan even. We know our customers really well, and we know our customers love predicting outcomes or things. And that really started from our heritage in being a DFS operator for a long time. Sports betting was a natural transition, and that's a casual way of having skin in the game. I think you could look at it in a couple ways. One, sports betting is like all over the press and all over major media. And if you actually think about it, it only represents like 25% of the US is regulated sports betting available. So we're truly in spring training, as our CEO would say. And I think when we look to the future of something that's interesting, the US market is constantly getting compared to Europe. And when you look at the European market, live betting has been hugely popular. And the majority of American sports, bets are still placed pre-game. So in terms of like the future of sports betting, we have a position of live betting we see as being a bigger and bigger opportunity. And then the one other thing I'd mention that Bryson DeChambeau, one of our partners, key partners that we announced in 2020, he spoke about his agreement, and he talked about how he feels that by representing DraftKings, he's doing his part to grow the sport of golf. And I just feel that answer spoke volumes into how we see just sports betting evolve the industry, period.
Yeah, I as a former Olympic athlete, if more people are going to watch you, pay attention to you, and be engaged in your sport, and betting is the way, I think that's a really interesting insight. Thanks for bringing that thought in. Ishwar, what about you? 2021, where are your thoughts?
I mean, I think first what you're going to see us announce in a couple of weeks that we're really excited about is one, BetCast with the NBA. We'll be carrying some betting focused versions of League Pass games in addition to the core games. And then we will also be launching sort of a bet and watch as opposed to a watch and bet feed. So if you bet $200 with us, we'll give you a season of League Pass on us. We know, all of us know, Mike and Aubrey and all of us know that people will bet more and be more engaged and watch more if they can bet while watching games. It's just fun for everyone. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one thing for us, the real merger of content and betting. And I think the other thing I think we'll see more of in 2021 is sort of the normalization of betting in America, much like you see it already in Europe. I mean, whether this is a good example of parenting or not, my 9-year-old has been obsessed with the Georgia runoff elections. And he walked into my office in the basement here the other day and told me what the odds were for each of the candidates in Georgia. And I don't know where he's getting that from, or if that's legal in the US. I'm not sure it is. And I don't think he was placing bets, but it shows you that it's sort of coming into the psyche, even of, for better or for worse, small children in America. So it's just interesting to see how we're responding and how we're adapting to the market, and sort of values and morals change around this.
So he didn't make any money off of the Georgia runoff?
No, we're going to send him a stock trading account. So maybe that's a good starting point.
But his 529 plan, you put away for his college.
That's right.
Aubrey, what about you? 2021, what are your predictions?
I think from a market perspective, I think even us, we were obviously very bullish on it, but the rate at which states and now to talk to our former roots, like even other countries like Canada, are actively progressing legislation and progressing the rollout of sports betting, because they just see the opportunity, and not just from a tax revenue perspective, but the benefits to the league, to the consumer. So I'm pretty fired up about what that means from just a pace of adoption, right? Like how quickly this gets across the US, how quickly Canada unlocks, which obviously would be a huge opportunity for us. We're number 2 across North America, but in Canada, from a media perspective, we're number 1 digitally by a mile. So it's just, for us, it's about making sure that we are both going deeper with how we're servicing that connection point between media and betting, finding new and innovative ways to do that, and then making sure we're getting in front of as many of both our media users and the market in general as we can across the US and Canada. And if you'd asked me 6 months ago what states and provinces were unlocking, that landscape has progressed even more than I would have thought then. So who the hell knows where we're going to be 6 months from now. But it's kind of like, I feel like every day it's like, hold on to your hat and see how many hours of sleep I get tonight.
You never know. Yeah.
Things piling up, but it's exciting. Look, I think this is, we operate in both sports betting. We also have one of the, since we're talking about like buzzy, sexy verticals, esports, like and talking about the fluid fan. I mean, I think not necessarily the topic of this conversation, but if sports wants to kind of take a look at how to service content and market to a fluid fan, look at the esports fan, because that's a fan that never grew up with regionalized team preferences, with lineage of sitting down and watching a game with your parent, right? That fan is truly coming in via digital platforms and social feeds. So this notion of, and ultimately there will be an intersection between esports and betting in North America too. Though I don't think that's necessarily a 2021 thing. To get to a place of real market opportunity, it's probably going to happen than I would have predicted previously. So,
yeah, I mean, we saw it's the digital transformation of sports in general. Esports has always been that massive shift in 2020 because of COVID to get the sports industry to become more accessible to these fluid fans. So all of those macro trends and changes are certainly going to have an impact on the sports betting market. So I just want to say thank you to you, Ishwara Glassman from Yahoo Sports, Mike Hermelin from Draftkings, Aubrey Levy from The Score. Thanks for providing your insights here at the Sports Zone on the sports betting market. And good luck to you all in 2021. It's a crazy space, but we'll all be paying attention and wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Angela.
Angela.